Hello, Time Itself here, with part 1 of my Gamer's Guide to TrueSkill. This guide is aimed at giving gamers a better understanding of Microsoft's TrueSkill system and how it fits in their favorite games. No proficiency in calculus or advanced statistics required. In part 1, we'll talk about what a skill rating system is and some of the basics of the TrueSkill system, including why everyone starts at 0. TrueSkill was in beta for Halo 2, and went on to be used in Halo 3 as well as many other games, such as Age of Empires 3, a personal favorite. And hopefully it will make an appearance in Halo 4 as 343 Industries continues post-launch support. Skill ratings can help players find games against similarly skilled opponents, making for closer, more competitive, and enjoyable games. This is the #1 purpose of skill rating systems. It's not to inflate egos. These skill levels aren't like RPG levels. Skill levels approximate how a player's skill relates to everyone else who plays the game, where RPG levels are measures of accumulated experience. Skill ratings are always relative and require an active community of players to have any context or serve any purpose. Ranking is done solely based on who wins. That is the objective of the game after all. Other stats like how lopsided or close the game was, or individual performance on a team, aren't considered. Those things could allow for ratings manipulation, they'd make the system even more complicated, and would require significantly more effort to tune any additional weighting parameters into the ratings. For example, Civilization Strength got a small balance for ratings purposes in Age of Empires 3, but this required a lot of data after each balance patch to tune, and even then it was still quite minimal. We'll talk more about tuning parameters in part 2. TrueSkill is a variation of the Glico rating system. These systems keep track of 2 numbers for every player: a skill rating and how accurate the system considers that rating to be. After each match, the system calculates new, updated values for each player based on the result. Here is the first trick of the TrueSkill rating system. Both numbers I mentioned aren't the ones that players see. Instead, it gives a conservative rating. That, if the assumptions about how the game's community's skill level are accurate, is the level which the player is almost certainly, or better than 99.87%, certain to be better than. Just keep in mind that the conservative ratings are what everyone sees. The starting rating and uncertainty are set so that players see their conservative rating as 0 when they start, and then see it increase as the level of uncertainty about their rating decreases, even if the approximate rating goes down to below the starting value. One of the biggest challenges for a rating system is finding accurate ratings for players, possibly in the hundreds of thousands for a popular game, in a minimal number of games. If you were to assume that the higher rated player always wins, the problem turns into a classic sorting problem, something computer scientists have done a lot of work on. We know the theoretical minimum, but our ranking problem is more complicated. One part of this challenge is that the better player and more highly rated player will be more likely to win, but not certain to win. We only want to update ratings after each game and be done with it. We don't want to go back and keep track of how other players do after a given match and then go back and revise skill ratings later. It's just too complicated that way. Team games present even more of a challenge. And what to make of games that are played where the result is already so expected that it doesn't give the system any new information? This isn't an easy problem. But how does TrueSkill do here? It depends on the game mode. Free-for-all games offer to rate every player against every other player in the game, and accurate ratings can be found very quickly. I'm guessing this is partly why free-for-all was the first choice offered to players in Halo 2 and 3. But as you combine players onto teams, you get less information from each game, as only who won or lost is considered, and not the placement of players within the teams, or the possible tie. TrueSkill assumes on a team, player skills are strictly additive, but that isn't always the case, especially for objective game modes. Again, more complication than we care to take on. Still, from the information Microsoft has put out, they claim that the TrueSkill system can accurately rate a player in as few as 3 games. In 8-player free-for-all, that is. But the number gets a whole lot bigger as the teams get It's larger, and the results of the game can't be attributed to any specific player's skill. Taking 46 games on 4v4 or a whopping 91 games in 8 versus 8. TrueSkill offers some impressive advantages over the common ELO systems, but it still has a hard time with team games, especially objective team games, due to the complicated interactions between the players. I don't think any rating system out there is up to the task right now. One of the issues with TrueSkill is that it requires some tuning to perform as intended. These tuning parameters will be the topic of part 2 when we dig into a little more detail and see more about how TrueSkill works. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you guys next time.
Spectacular. Overshield. Game over. Victory.